Okay. Yeah. Well, hello. Thank you so much for meeting with me. So how would you describe your most recent article, to a public audience?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and for asking. So, my research is on the European Court of Human Rights, which is based in Strasbourg, France. It is one of the world's largest human rights courts. And one of the things that makes it really interesting is that it's actually binding on states. So, it covers 46 European states. It's a Council of Europe, not a European Union institution. And when the court delivers a judgment that a nation state has violated an individual's human rights, then the nation state is actually obligated to implement that judgment in some way. So that's the kind of broader context for the research. The question I was really interested in my research generally, and in this article in particular, is why people continue to engage with institutions that can often be very constraining, very frustrating to work with, and very slow to work with in order to advance social justice claims and goals. And so, really, it's a question about why and how people continue to use institutions for justice, for social transformation, and what the sort of costs and benefits of that engagement are. So that's the sort of general set of questions that I was interested in. And those sets of questions got me beginning to think about, well, what is an institution in the first place? If we're going to ask what the possibilities and limits are of social transformation within an institution, we need to understand institutionality in a really granular way. And so in the article, I really try to think about what the discursive and semiotic and practice-based and material and ideological aspects of institutions are, by which people actually generate institutionality in interactive ways. And the conclusion that I came to is to really try to think about institutions in sort of from the inside out and try to open up those processes of institutionalization to understand where the pressure points and the points for flexibility and change can come from, again, the sort of inside out. And what I try to think about in the article are the points in institutions where people are using different kinds of channels and interactions and categories to really fix or regiment certain kinds of legal forms. So again, we think a lot about institutions as fixing and as regimenting, and that's definitely true through the use of normative categories and legal and doctrinal categories. But there are other points in which that process of regimentation and fixing actually open up this huge amount for creativity and almost rewriting the terms or conditions of normativity from the inside out. And it's that dynamic of fixing and flexibility and sort of normativity and creativity that I was trying to get at in the article. So, say, for example, that there is a judgment against a nation state, and the court rules that there's a violation of a human right, say, for example, prison conditions or police brutality or another kind, or torture, right? Another fundamental right. And there's now a violation, and those cases are often brought by individuals working with strategic litigators who are interested not only in winning the case for their client, but for actually rewriting the terms of justice, again, from the inside out using the language of law. So say there's a judgment of a violation, that document, that judgment in some ways is fixed, right? It's a kind of line in the sand or a mark in time where the court has agreed that legally there's been a human rights violation and the state has a set of obligations to uphold it. Then what happens is a bunch of different actors get a chance to weigh in on what it actually means to fix that violation in practice. So at the same time that a judgment fixes legally the notion of a violation, the scope and nature or meaning of what justice might look like in that case is sort of opened up. And within the institution, so the same channel that fixes the violation and holds it steady, within that same channel, you get all these people who are sort of pouring in new interpretive frameworks and ways of understanding justice and law, so that when it gets to the phase of implementation or execution, which also happens at the Council of Europe, all of a sudden a judgment that says X can be sort of stretched a little bit so that what it means to make that violation right, what it means to fix it, winds up being much, much broader than just that individual case. And it's one way that we can scale from individual cases of human rights violations to actually something like structural social change on the ground within the orbit of law itself. So that's my example.
That sounds super interesting. Thank you so much for meeting with us.
Sure.
Um, Thank you.